Robin Asbell, your plant-based chef and your plant-based guide to everything that's delicious. And what's that? Ah! Ah! That's right. It's pumpkin spice madness. Now, a lot of you wait all year for the pumpkin spice to arrive. We just love those comforting pumpkin spice. Pumpkin spice is basically the taste of pumpkin pie. But I gotta tell you, pumpkin spice has gotten into some strange places. Sure, pumpkin spice lattes, pumpkin spice cookies, but then we've also got pumpkin spice macaroni and cheese and pumpkin spice air fresheners and pumpkin spice all over the place. So I've got to ask you, what is in your pumpkin spice? A lot of the time, there's no pumpkin and there's no spice. What you've got actually is a very secret, trade secret blend of natural flavors. But that's not pumpkin and that's not spice, and I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with that, but I like to use real pumpkin and real spice, and it's not hard to do it at home, and that's what we're going to do today. So we're starting out with a pumpkin spice latte, and then we're going to make some pumpkin spice chili, which is going to blow your mind. So to get started, I've got some of that barista blend almond milk, and you just want to use something there's also an oat milk that's the same kind of deal, that it's good for foaming. Now you can certainly make this without any foaming at all. So I just put in some organic sugar, and here comes real pumpkin. Yes, real pumpkin. And you can use pumpkin from a can, or you can puree some squash, however you want to do it. So I know there's going to be a few surprises here, but one of them is pumpkin in a can is not pumpkin. I know. How can they do that? It's not that there's anything weird going on. It's just that real pumpkin is a little stringy, so they put other varieties of squash in that are drier and less stringy than pumpkin. And so feel free, whenever you are working with pumpkin, to get a squash and use that instead. And this is going to be one of my favorites. This is an orange kabocha, but I'll be with that and just get working on that in a second. So I'm going to put in cinnamon, that's a spice, and then some allspice, and some ginger. It's important to keep fresh spices on hand. Don't buy too much. I buy them from the bulk section at my co-op so that I can just get a little bit, and that way you don't end up with a jar of ginger that's 5 years old. I know it happens. You're not the only one. As a private chef, I go in people's kitchens, and let me tell you, I've seen some spice that was really old. And before we started, I used my little espresso pot to make some hot coffee. So I'm going to have coffee, and I'm going to blend up this pumpkin spice to make it foamy. So I've got my little mixture here. Now if you're very industrious, you can just whisk and whisk and whisk, but I'm going to put it in the blender so that I can get a quick foam. So I put it into my Vitamix. See the steam coming off of it. And I'm just going to put the cover on. And you just whip that for a little bit, and it gets nice and foamy. And I'm going to go ahead and make myself a latte. Ooh, it's going to be so delicious. Of course, I use a delicious dark roast organic coffee. And in goes my pumpkin spice whip. Oh, they wish their pumpkin spice were this delicious. The thing about this, I've served this to people before who said, this is not as sweet as the pumpkin spice at the coffee shop. But the thing is, this has got 5 servings in it, and I used a half a cup of sugar. When you think about that, that's plenty of sugar, but it's much less sweet. And the reason is that those are loaded with sugar. So it's better to make your own and use less sugar. You'll have a healthier drink. So I'm just going to drink my latte here, and then I'm going to set us up to make our chili. All right, so to make our pumpkin chili, I've got my kabocha. Now sometimes they're green with more of kind of a gray stripy appearance, but it's a kabocha it's a Japanese variety of squash or pumpkin. It's very close to pumpkin, but you're going to see it's got a wonderful meaty texture that's just absolutely delicious in this chili. So I'm going to show you how to cut up a squash because some people find this very challenging. You may notice that I did my squash by cutting it in wedges and then slicing straight down. That's safer than trying to pare it, holding it up in the air. It's easier because you can lay the flat side down, it doesn't move, and it certainly works a lot better on a hard shell squash like this than a peeler. So you can use a paring knife if you'd like, but I just wanted to show you this way. So to start my chili, going in with some olive oil, and of course some onion, 1 large onion. I'm going to get some onion sauteing. So I'll let my onions get nice and soft, and I'll show you another little trick is I'm going to cut up a jalapeno. It's very easy to do. You just hold this pepper stem and you can just slice the flesh away from the core and the seeds, and you're left with the core and the seeds and the stem. And if you were using a very hot pepper, I would tell you to wear gloves, but this is just a jalapeno. It's just for fun. It's a little hotter than a sweet pepper. It's not a habanero or a Scotch bonnet or even a serrano, but you can, if you're really into heat, certainly go up a step and get a little extra heat. But see how I made it into little strips and then cut it into little pieces, and that's going to be fantastic in the chili. So after the onions saute a little bit, I'm going in with some garlic. Love my garlic. So now I'm going to add this cut up pumpkin. And it's such a lovely thing. When you cut it up and cube it like this, or cut it in pieces, you can saute it and leave it in chunks rather than having it always be a puree or something sort of mushy. So I'll stir this a little bit just to kind of get it started. So I'm going to put in the jalapeno that I chopped up, and I've got cumin, and then getting crazy with the pumpkin spice, cinnamon, allspice, clove. I know it's wild. And then I'm going to put in a can of diced tomatoes. And half a cup of vegetable stock. And bring that to a boil. I'll put in a little salt, about half a teaspoon. And I'm going to put the lid on so that when this comes to a boil, it's just going to braise the squash. So I'll be right back when this is boiled and cooked for a little bit and the squash is tender. We are back. We're back after about 10 minutes of braising. And here is my beautiful squash chili. I should say pumpkin spice chili. I'm stirring in some cooked black beans, which I did not add earlier because they were from a can and they're already cooked, so I don't need for them to get so cooked that they get mushy. So I'm just going to heat them through. And I'll just go ahead and move this over because that's really all we need to do. And I'm going to stir in some cilantro, which you want to wait till the very last minute because cilantro is fragile. And then I'm going to serve it up in this little pumpkin shaped bowl, which I think is actually a candy dish. So we've got our pumpkins chili, and it smells so good. All these lovely spices in this chili. So it's a little spicy. It's got the wonderful fragrance. And I'll put on a little bit more cilantro. And one final step is I'm going to toast some pumpkin seeds. Now you see these called pepitas, and pepitas or pumpkin seeds, and here's another mind-blowing fact, they're not from pumpkin. They're from a special kind of squash that's been grown just for the seeds. Because if you take the guts out of your pumpkin for Halloween and were to be able to take those white shells off, the insides aren't going to be like this. They're going to be tiny. So these are really big, really tasty pumpkin seeds. Oh, and my pumpkin spice latte still working for me. So the awesome thing about pumpkin seeds is you don't need any oil. You don't need to turn the oven on. You can just put them in a dry pan and put them over high heat, and they will toast and just get this incredible, just nutty, wonderful flavor and get a more crunchy texture, because when they're raw, they're kind of soft. But when they're nice and toasty, you can hear they're starting to pop. They're just popping a little bit in the pan, and that's really all we need to do. Just get a few of those guys popped, and they turn this beautiful, fly out of the pan a little bit, and they turn kind of a toasty color. So I'm going to put those on as a garnish, because it's just going to add this final delicious element to our pumpkin spice chili. And it's going to be crunchy and a little spice and a little squash, a little pumpkin. Mmm. Mmm. I just can't tell you how much I love this. It's got tomato, it's got the sweet squash, which as you can see stayed nice and firm, and it's just a wonderful, surprising fall dish and a way to serve pumpkin and serve pumpkin spice and not have it be something that's out of a package and has mysterious and strange ingredients. So I hope you'll make this chili, and just remember, it's all about the flavor. See you next time.